Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're going to be playing more of the Banished seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which, after we draw our cards, our entire deck gets banished. And today we're going to be trying out a new Skellige deck, so let's give it a look. So today we'll be using a Patricidal Fury Skellige deck that will focus on playing a combination of big cards, dealing some damage, and also using some alchemy synergies. So I'll flip through the deck and talk a little bit about some of the cards that require some explanation, starting with Gedyneith, the Skellige scenario, which is the primary way in which we are getting those alchemy synergies. When we first play, we'll get a Crow Clan Preacher, and then once we play a Druid, we'll get a Crow-Eye Rhizome, and then after that, our next Druid will give us Mardroeme. And as with all scenarios, these cards work really well together, so you're going to see additional Druids and additional alchemy cards later on in the deck. Then we have Korathi Heatwave for removal, Arnaghad, which is a big source of damage, especially if we combine it with a card that we're going to look at soon. Dagur Two Blades gets boosted when we deal damage, so this works well with Arnaghad as well as our leader ability and a few other cards. Crowmother, who comes back from our graveyard to the playing field whenever we play an alchemy card, and this is important because remember, although our deck is being banished, our graveyard is not, so this does still work. Sigrdrifa's Rite, again, to play a card from our graveyard, which does not get banished. Sukrus, this is the card that goes particularly well next to Arnaghad, because the card to the left of Sukrus will not take any damage, so that works well with Arnaghad, as well as the Mardroeme. Skjall, which is just a big 10 strength card, and if we can play it next to Sukrus, not bad, to avoid getting that Berserk 5 Destroy Self to trigger. Gerd for high strength and some damage. Delerium for damage and its alchemy. Gigascropion Decoction, because it's an alchemy card and it has damage. Heymaey Flaminica has some healing if we do find ourselves taking damage that we don't want to take, and is also a druid. Alchemy card with the Runestone. Alchemy card with Mardroeme. And Mahakam Ale, which is another alchemy card and removes lock, which is important because there are a lot of people playing locking Nilfgaard decks in this seasonal event. Crow Clan Preacher, strong with the alchemy cards with the boosts. Svalblood Priest is another druid, and ideally, the card that we're dealing damage to is next to Sukrus, and therefore doesn't actually take damage. And then as we start to get to the end of the deck, we're looking at cards that we ideally wouldn't ever need to play, and that includes Heymaey Herbalist, although she is a druid, so that does help us with the scenario. Cutting Slash for damage. Crow's Eye, because it's an alchemy card, again, could get rid of some of those locks. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, it's a combination of druids, alchemy, and high damage, high strength cards that we're hoping will be our recipe for success. Okay, so we'll go against Northern Realms here, and we'll go first. Okay, we got Crowmother, that's great. We got Gedyneith, which is also great. Do we have enough of our druids to trigger all the rounds of it? We have 3 here, so we might end up getting those a little bit split between different rounds, so we want to be mindful of that. I think we definitely get rid of Cutting Slash. Mahakam Ale is another alchemy card, which is not bad per se, although we would perhaps prefer a different druid instead. What if we were to, well, we're going to have to get rid of either a druid or an alchemy card here, in all likelihood. We're going to want to keep Korathi Heatwave and Gerd. So let's dump, I guess, you. Gigascropion Decoction, let's get rid of you. Dagger. Okay, we do have some damage to go along with that, so yes, I think all in all, we do have the pieces. It's just a matter of, can we make sure that we play the cards that need to go together in the same round? That's going to be the tricky part. So, what do I mean by that? I mean, Dagger, we want to probably put in the same round as Gigascropion Decoction, ideally Gerd as well, maybe even our leader ability. Whereas we'd like to do our scenario along with Crowmother and the Crow Clan Preacher. And Crowmother has some carryover, so we want to play her early. I think for that reason, that means we're going to go with the druids first. And let's just boost this Crow Clan Preacher as well, make it a little bit harder to get rid of it. Okay, and they're going to go with a Defender. 7 strength card. Just about as high as it gets in terms of base strength for Northern Realms units, but I don't think that really changes much here. I think we want to prioritize Crow Clan Preachers first, because as soon as we play our next druid, we'll start to get the alchemy units out there from the scenario, so let's do that now. And I think we'll split between different rows in case they have a Gerd, although certainly they could also have a Trebuchet to deal damage in the range row. Just don't know at this stage. But let's spawn in those crows and get boosted in the process. And already we have a pretty sizable lead here that's going to be tough for them to catch up to. Onsace is a little bit problematic. They do have Shield Wall, so this does look like perhaps this is going to be your typical Northern Realms Shield Wall deck. But if we go Crowmother here, then we'll get the last round of our scenario to trigger, and I think that's still going to be enough that we aren't too concerned about whatever they want to do with Onsace there. In fact, if they wait a turn, then we might even get Sukrus down there and protect one of our big Crow Clan creatures. I mean, they're being pretty obvious about which one they want to target, the one that has the most strength. So let's go here, play Crowmother, and then do we try to boost this even further still and dissuade them from trying to get Onsace to destroy it? Perhaps, although I feel like whenever someone tries to duel my cards, I always underestimate just how effective that is. Okay, they'll go with Vids Royal Guards, which isn't a huge play by itself, but is probably a means by which to boost Onsace, yes. Here comes the shield wall, and are they going to use it immediately? They are. And that's what I mean. Somehow, Onsace still emerged victorious there, which, you know, admittedly I didn't do the math, but it really felt like that was not going to happen. So, let's see. At this stage, we could, say, drop another alchemy card, get boosted in the process. We do still have a lead here, and they have played what I would expect is probably their best combo here, going with Onsace and getting the shield on him. We could potentially pass and live with this 4 strength advantage, or we could try to go a little bit further. Could even banish Dagur of Troy, or deal damage to a lot of people with Gerd, though I think we want to try to combine that with Dagur Two Blades. I think we do play Sukrus here, though. We want a little bit more strength. And I think they're going to struggle to keep pace with 6 strength cards. Northern Realms generally has low strength cards that boost themselves over time, like the Temerian Drummer. Okay, what I'm suspecting here is they're going to try to get Onsace to get back his order ability to use this again and destroy our next strongest card. But at least for right now, we still have a strength advantage, and we have increased it. But we still have a 6 strength advantage here, and I think that's enough that I'm fairly comfortable passing here, and worst comes to worst, they play 1 extra card and do take round 1 from us, but we'll carry over our card advantage into round 2 and 3. And they do pass, they do give us round 1, and that is particularly good because the cards that we have remaining are ones that tend to work well together. So, okay, so let's see. I think we might want to lead off with Dagur Two Blades here and then maybe immediately follow up with the Patricidal, because that way we can get Dagur boosted early. Don't have to worry about him being vulnerable from getting outright destroyed before he gets a chance to get boosted up. So let's go with that. And it does mean we're basically going for the round 2 victory here. And we're not going to have much of anything left over for once we make it to round 3. Okay, Curiosity Guard can move a unit, which is actually concerning for Dagur because Dagur only works in the melee row. However, we do have a little bit of time to either, I mean, we could just banish this card if we really wanted to, or we could use something like Delerium or Gerd to get a little bit more damage out there, boost Dagur up a little bit more before he inevitably gets moved. Although Gerd, this is actually, he's already triggering his Adrenaline ability, which is a little bit unfortunate because that actually weakens him, makes it so that he's only damaging 1 Siren. So it's not a huge difference maker. In some ways, I almost feel like Korathi Heatwave, it has a lot of value here. The question is just, might we want to save it for a bigger card later on? No, I think them being able to get rid of, or at least shut down Dagur Two Blades is a big enough deal that we do want to get rid of you here. Okay, and Trident of Infantry. Presumably a card that you will want to try to boost at some point. You did already take one of your Temerian Drummers, which is the usual combo, but might see another one of those or something like an Anna Stranger. And the thing is here, we'd like to wait to use Gigascropion Decoction or Delerium until you actually have 6 strength in a row. Otherwise, it's a little bit overkill. So I think that means that now is probably the time for Gerd. And why don't we play you in the melee row? So that at least there's now 5 strength in this row. So if we have to do something like Delerium next turn, it's not that bad in the melee row. And they're going to go with the Temerian Drummer, as we might have expected them to do. That will boost Trident of Infantry, and as it gets boosted, it will deal some damage. Now, question here is, do we deliberately do something like Gigascropion Decoction to outright remove Trident of Infantry? It is 1 damage worth of overkill, Or do we go with Delerium, split the damage a little bit across all the cards here in this row, and hope that we happen to get 5 damage on Trident Infantry specifically? I think that's pretty unlikely. So let's go for Gigascropion Decoction here. And it will get Dagger way up to 13, and it will get Crowmother back. Okay, Griffin Witcher Adept is actually surprisingly effective here. It has some shield, and therefore that means that something like Delirium will at least prevent it from taking 1 damage. It does only transform Witchers into copies of itself, so can't transform all these Deafening Sirens into Griffin Witcher Adept, so fortunately that's not the case. But do we go with Mahakam Ale here? Do we go with Delirium? I mean, Delirium works in the melee row at this point. Maybe if we're lucky we could destroy the Temerian Drummer there. Of course, it has 1 armor. Griffin Witcher Adept has 1 shield, so that is a little bit of damage that we'll lose in the process, but maybe that's just something that we more or less have to deal with here. Okay, and yeah, so it doesn't destroy anything, and did end up hitting both the shield and the armor, but that was pretty much inevitable, I think. We get a little bit of damage out of it, and we get a little bit of boost on Dagger. And they have another Griffin Witcher Adept. They could actually transform the one that just got hurt, which is not a huge deal, and we still got a little bit of boost out of it. So now it's just Mahakam Ale, and I think we probably use this on Patricide in case they have Yrden. I mean, if they want to destroy or reset a card, then they're certainly going to reset Dagger, and they're probably still going to destroy Dagger. So I think either way, Patricide is probably pretty safe. And it's Cohen. So they'll boost cards that have the same strength as Cohen. But even with that, it's not going to be enough here. And that means we're going to take it. Okay, so it looks like we're going against Nilfgaard here. And they will go first. Okay, and we have some interesting combos here. We do have our scenario. And we have a few druids to trigger that. Just enough. Might want to get a few more than that. Alchemy cards that could go well with that. Then we have the Arnaghad plus Sukrus combo, which is fantastic. So I love that. Dagger and Gerd work well together as well. I think what we do here is we perhaps try getting rid of a Mardroeme in hopes of getting a better druid. Okay, we perhaps got a better alchemy card out of it. And we got another alchemy card. I was hoping we might have gotten another preacher besides the ones that we're just going to get from our scenario, but no such luck. Skjall first is strong. Of course, the longer the round goes, the more he will get boosted. So if it's a relatively short round, that's not a huge deal, but round 1 could certainly be on the longer side. And they're immediately using their leader ability, taking Arnaghad, and his key ability only triggers at Adrenaline 4. So, I mean, they're throwing down a ton of strength here, and tell you what, in some ways, I think it might actually be best for us to pass, because they have the additional advantage of having the tactic, they use their leader ability here, and they played a card in Skjall that is pretty strong and benefits the longer it's at here, so we want to keep this one short. And, I mean, we could potentially still surpass them if we were to go with the scenario here, but I am a little bit skeptical of that, and I think it may be best to just take a minor card advantage going into rounds 2 and round 3, because we're not going to draw any additional cards in between rounds, so bit risky, but I think we give it a shot. Okay, and of course, they're going to pass. My question is, are they going to have the new card that allows them to steal our leader ability? Because that was one of the reasons why I decided to pass early, was because they did use their leader ability very early, very aggressively. Oh, and they have a Phoenix, okay. So that's a source of carryover. And that is concerning. That may even be the only thing that they want to play here. I'm not sure to what extent we should be planning for a long round here. There's a chance they just go for only the Phoenix. They settle for that carryover, especially since they won round 1. They know they don't have to win this one, and then just use that to their advantage in round 3. If that is the case, then we want to play something that is just strong enough to still win with a 1-card play, but not use any of our cards that we really want to have for other synergies in round 3. So I think we might try the Runestone here. It is a bit of a risk. We don't know what we're going to get. And, ooh, okay. If we go with you, will damage the Phoenix by 2, dropping it down to a 2. Then you will damage yourself, dropping it down to a 3. That would work. And so would the Savage Bear. I mean, either one of these would work. As long as we have time to actually use this ability. Okay, whew. Almost didn't. Okay, yeah, they're gonna pass. So, as expected, they are basically just playing the Phoenix, and we, fortunately, I think, got rid of what was more or less our weakest card. It probably would have been the Herbalist, except we need this second Druid to trigger the last round of the scenario. So, I think we dodged what could have been a bit of a trap there. Okay, and we go first in round 3, which is a little bit of a disadvantage. However, we do have all of our best cards. Granted, we have 9 out of our starting 10 cards, so that's not saying much, but I think we start off with the scenario here because we're going to want to play some alchemy cards later on, and that means that the Preacher will get boosted up from those cards. We do also have Sigrdrifa's Rite, which means we can bring back a Skellige unit from our graveyard. At the moment, we don't have a great one, but this is Nilfgaard here. There's certainly a chance they might find a way to destroy one of our cards, so let's go with the scenario now. Yeah, and they're going to lock her, which is unfortunate because I don't believe we have any way of removing that lock. So that may shift our priorities here a bit, and we might want to transition from initially our plan to focus on doing those alchemy cards to get you boosted up, and now focus instead on doing the damage and getting Dagur stronger. So I think we go that route here. We'll go Dagur in the melee row, and then probably follow up immediately with our leader ability here. We'd like to get Gerd soon thereafter, and also the Decoction, because that's going to be the primary sources of our damage, and primary way to get Dagur boosted even further. But one step at a time here. Dagur first, then leader ability. This shouldn't matter too much where we play you. That gets Dagur up to a 7. Okay, and they will go Imperial Golem, which is an 11-point play. It is big, but fortunately, it does not disrupt anything that we were planning to do. So that means that, say, we could go with Gerd next in the range row and deal 1 damage to everyone out here. That'd be 4, actually 5 if you include the Siren that he spawns in, and that'd be boosting Dagur up to a 12. So I like that a lot. We could also go with Gigascropion Decoction for 6 damage against the Imperial Golem, but I think we do want to make a point of playing Gerd as early as we can, because if we wait, then his Adrenaline 4 is going to start to kick in, and he gets much weaker. So let's do this next. And like we said, that boosts Dagur a lot. Other thing to consider is we do still have some long-term value by getting the Svalblood Priest out there early, so I know we were saying we would do a little bit less of the alchemy since the Preacher got locked, but that still could be worthwhile. Okay, and Shoop Stay Off could do any of a number of things. What's it going to be, though? Okay, they're going for moving something to the other row. That's going to be Dagur. Oh, what? So I think they messed up. I think they meant to move Dagur because, well, that was perhaps going to be our strongest card, but instead they gave us the Phoenix. Okay. Sure. We'll take it. And in that case, what I think we do now is we want to get Sukrus down there early, and that way, when we play this Svalblood Priest, he can start dealing damage to a unit. Well, normally deal damage to it, but if it's next to Sukrus, then it won't take anything. So let's go with Sukrus here, and maybe we'll play you next to the Phoenix. So if they want to try to deal damage to it, they won't be able to. Okay, an Ardfiend Tortoise is just a lot of strength, but still not disrupting anything we're doing here. And starting now, Arnaghad's Adrenaline ability does trigger, and we do have Sukrus down there, so I think that's huge. We definitely want to do that immediately, and then we'll get in the Priest, and we'll put that next to Arnaghad, and Arnaghad won't get damaged in the process. So I think that's the order of operations here. And this could outright shut them down, because that's going to deal 7 damage to any unit that they play, and normally the units would trade damage, except when Arnaghad is next to Sukrus, Arnaghad does not take any damage at all. Okay, and Letho might lock, might damage, depending on what cards you still have in your hand. This will be telling. Okay, it was just an 8 strength card, and only that. And there you saw them exchanging damage. Arnaghad didn't get hurt at all, but Letho got hit with a 7. So that will be a huge factor here. Now we throw down the Svalblood Priest, and let's just make sure we're putting it in the right place. So it damages the unit to the right of it by 1 and then boosts itself by 2. You put it next to Sukrus. Sukrus will not get damage from this. Then we can spawn in some of our crows. There you see Arnaghad would have gotten hurt, but next to Sukrus, doesn't happen. Svalblood Priest still goes up. And they forfeit. We had still another Druid to play, which would have triggered the last round of the scenario. Still another Alchemy card to deal damage to further boost Dagur Two Blades. And we were about to run away with it. Okay, so we'll go against monsters here. And they'll go first. Okay, so we have our scenario. That's big. We have Crowmother to help trigger that. And we do have one other Druid. So that's fine, although this is one of our weaker Druids. And we would perhaps like to get at least one more just to be a little bit safer there. And we have Arnaghad. We'd like to have Sukrus along with that, but not yet. I think we get rid of Gutting Slash. Dagger could go well with some of our damaging alchemy cards and our leader ability, so I like that. I think we might dump Crow's Eye here, probably our weakest of our alchemy cards. And we get the Runestone, which we don't really know what we're going to get out of it, but I suppose we can make this work. Okay, so they're going to trigger their tactic. Sure. Goliath is a big card to play, 10 strength. And that's going to be hard to keep pace with unless if we break out our scenario. I think we may need to do that in round 1 because Crowmother has carryover ability from one round to the next. Whenever we play an alchemy card, she's going to go from our graveyard onto the playing field. So we want to get her played in round 1. And by extension, because she's one of the true druids that we need in order to trigger our scenario, I think that means we play the scenario in round 1. So we lead off with this. And they pass. Okay, so that is concerning because we did just play our best card and it was not enough yet to pass them. It does take a little bit more time to get the full benefit out of it. Now, the next card that we play would likely be Crowmother, and she does have carryover, so it's not the end of the world if we play her now, but we have to ask ourselves, do we commit to doing that? Let's see, how many points is this actually worth? She herself is 4, spawns in 2 crows, that's 8 with her, and that will also give us the Crow's Rhizome, which will spawn in 3 crows for 6. So that's 6 plus 8, that is enough. So let's do it. Also boost the Preacher. So yes, we have passed them. Does mean we go down a card here, which is unfortunate. But because we had the carryover from Crowmother, that's not as bad as it may seem. Okay, and so we could potentially even immediately pass here, force them to play a card to win round 2, and then be on even cards going into round 3, because we're not going to draw any cards in between rounds. But one thing to bear in mind is we have Sigrdrifa's Rite here, and that will bring us a card back from our graveyard, but Crowmother will come back whenever we play an alchemy card, so we don't need to use it to get her. It means the only card we'd be able to do that on right now would be the Preacher, which is solid, but maybe could be a little bit better. So I don't know if we potentially even tried going with something like Dagger here, and maybe even go with our leader ability and put some pressure on them, get some quick points out there, kind of similar to what they did in round 1, and then potentially bring Dagger back in round 3 with Sigrdrifa's Rite. Let's give that a shot. It's a little bit of a high-risk play. We're going to try it, though, because I think this is going to be hard for them to keep pace with. Monsters does have some big units, but they did just play what was perhaps their biggest, unless they have Ygern. But even with that, I think at most they're going to have 13 strength here. And even that would not be enough for them to catch up with one turn. Frightener Dormant. Okay, this is interesting. So, they need to destroy a bunch of cards in order for this to trigger, and then they'll get a 12 strength card after that. However, because it takes time for that to happen, I think now is absolutely the moment that we pass. And they have committed themselves playing the long game here. That means they're going to have to go a bunch of cards down going into round 3. Unless they use all their leader ability charges here, which they may not want to do, but they may have to. Then again, we also used our leader ability already. Okay, Karen, oh well, that is a good way to make it happen. It has Zeal, so you can immediately use it. And we did kind of give you fuel for that. This is true, and that's already enough. Okay, so in that case, we're on even cards, going into round 3, as we might have expected to be the case. Unfortunately, we did have to sacrifice our leader ability, whereas they did not. But, like I said, we will probably bring back Dagger with Sigrdrifa's Rite, so even though we played one of our better cards, we can still get that back. Okay, Harpy Egg. That has to be something they're planning to consume, right? So, Arnaghad, we want to get down once we have 4 cards or fewer in our hand, but we don't have Sukrus to go along with it, so that means that whenever they play a unit, they will damage Arnaghad as well. So it's not really a sustainable solution. However, we can do at least a little bit of healing if Arnaghad gets damaged but not outright destroyed the first time that happens. So, that is something that we will eventually want to do, but perhaps not yet, although then again, we don't really have much in the way of units here, other than, say, bringing back Dagur right now, which I think we do. So let's go with you in the melee row. That will bring back Crowmother as well. Like I said, that was going to be a factor, getting her played in round 1 so that we have all that carryover. And, well, they're going to seize something. Which one will it be? Not entirely sure. Probably rather it be Crowmother. Okay. So, I think we still prefer that because we do have future damage coming from things like Delerium and the Gigascropion Decoction. So that means that Dagur has much more long-term potential than Crowmother had. And I think we probably do use maybe even Gigascropion Decoction here. The one reason why we might want to hold on to it would be if we are anticipating they have something like Gerd, which is the 13 strength card that gains armor based on the number of cards in your hand. But if it loses all of its armor, it automatically gets destroyed. That could be an easy way to destroy what would be their strongest card. But that is purely theoretical here and potentially could get similar value out of Arnaghad. So I think for that reason, we do stick with going this route here and getting Dagur boosted nice and early. Okay, and Succubus doesn't do much unless they get a second one out here. But they may be planning on doing that. And now if we play Arnaghad, we will trigger Adrenaline 4 at this stage. So this would be right around the time when we're looking to do that. I think we give it a shot here. Like I said, he doesn't have Sukrus next to him, so we will take the damage whenever they play the card and may immediately get destroyed in the process, but we're hoping that if that does happen, we're taking out one of their better cards as well. And that will be damage, and so that will help with Dagur. And Succubus, here comes the second one. That will get damaged and destroyed by Arnaghad. There it is, but like we were saying, Arnaghad will take some damage, and then they use their leader ability to consume the other Succubus, and that brings one back from their graveyard. That's why I was saying they were only going to be an issue once there were 2 of them. But now I think what we do is we either heal Arnaghad with the Herbalist, or we use Mardroeme to get him boosted up higher. I think we go with the healing now because he can only heal when he's damaged, whereas if we do Mardroeme, he's going to get boosted up higher, and he's no longer going to be technically damaged. Let's do this. That gets you up to a 10 here, which makes it much harder for them to play cards at this stage. Okay, Plague Maiden will go down here, but it will trigger the Death Wish, which is probably not something we were looking for, because, well, that's a lot of rats. However, we do have Delerium, which could destroy the vast majority of those rats if we play it this turn. Otherwise, we could potentially prioritize Mardroeme now, except, Arnaghad would go down to it. Unfortunately, that will not work. We could do it on Dagur. That is fine. I was going to say maybe we play Mardroeme this turn. That way we can keep Arnaghad alive, but that's not going to happen. So, let's go Delerium in that case. And we got rid of several of the rats. Not all of them. And Bargus will consume and will destroy Arnaghad. We'll probably consume that Succubus, yeah. And that will bring it back. That is a little bit concerning here, because they do have another round of consumption with the Bargus, unless we have the highest unit out there, and we do with Dagur, so as long as Dagur can stay alive here, then we're actually looking okay. So we can either go Mardroeme, and that needs to be on Dagur, because otherwise it's going to destroy the Herbalist, or we could go with the Runestone, and we don't know what we're going to get out of the Runestone. So maybe we try this now just to see what we're working with here. And, we could bring back a Bronze Skellige unit from our graveyard and give it Doomed. I think we still have a Preacher in there, and we have one more Alchemy card to play, and so it will get boosted at least a little bit. That is awfully tempting here. I think that's what we go for. That's, in fact, our only option. So, sure, we'll take it. Does technically mean that, for the moment, we are still behind by 1, but we have a decent last card to play. And Caretaker is 7 strength, so that alone may be enough for them. But they can't consume because we still have the highest unit. So that means that 8 is the number to beat. Do we have it here? This is 6 by itself. The Crow Clan creature will get boosted by 1 when we play an alchemy card. That would give us 7. Are we going to fall 1 short? We may. Are there any creative ways for us to work around that? Dagger will get boosted if we choose to deal damage with Mardroeme to one of them instead. Best option there would probably be to remove the Crowmother, but that's still not enough because Dagger only gets boosted by 1 in that situation. So I think in that case we just use Mardroeme, but we are going to fall ever so slightly short. So there's a look at a Skellige deck for the new Banished seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to try out next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.